Hello, I'm Nathan P. Butler, author of a Saga on home video and host of From the Star Wars Home Video Library here on YouTube, and this is Star Wars Home Video Year by Year. This time we take a look at 1995, and holy crap, this year has a lot of stuff to look at. I'm going to have to move quickly. As always, if you want to see any of these items in more detail, check out the description below. It'll tell you where to find information about the different releases in a Saga on home video, my book, first edition if you have that, or second edition, including which volume of the three it's in. You can also find links below to the episodes of From the Star Wars Home Video Library that cover the individual items. But we've got to move quickly. This is not meant to be a long episode type series. For context, 1995 is the year Rebel Assault 2, the video game, came out with some original footage for the first time in a while. This is also the year that Kyle Katarn made his debut in the Dark Forces video game. Why am I partial to Kyle Katarn? Well, if you don't know me and my background, I was the one who wrote Equals and Opposites for Star Wars Tales number 21, bringing Kyle Katarn and Jan Ords back into comic form in the Jedi Order era, which actually was just reprinted in late 2024 here in New Republic Epic Collection Volume 8. So I'm kind of partial to the milestone of Kyle showing up in video games for the very first time. But the big news this year is all Star Wars home video stuff. We knew at the time that we would see a special edition version of A New Hope in the future. We had no idea yet that Empire and Jedi would be included, but A New Hope for sure. And the marketing blitz was huge for the original One Last Time. One of those sort of iconic home video marketing lines that still sticks with us to this day, as we'll see with its companion piece in 1997 here. But what did that mean for home video? What is this One Last Time? Well, the One Last Time actually refers to essentially a mass release. It would have been kind of a niche item back in 1993. Remember, in 1993, we had the Star Wars Definitive Collection LaserDisc set in the United States, an extended play CAV LaserDisc set, including all three of the original trilogy films and some bonus features with THX remastering done to it for superior sound and picture quality. Yes, you can tell those ads stuck with me all these years later. That was sort of the best way to see the films at the time. But then, we saw an experiment in the UK in 1994 where they realized that Star Wars kept topping the charts, all the different Star Wars films kept topping the charts, or being close to the top, relatively speaking, for VHS sales, despite the fact there hadn't been a new film in a while. So they thought, what if we put a new marketing push behind this? How well would they sell then? And they did so using those Definitive Collection Masters as the digitally remastered full screen and widescreen releases in 94, and they sold very, very well, which served as a proof of concept to basically tell Fox Video, hey, maybe we should push out this THX remastered version of the films that we launched in 93 and that the UK experimented with in 94. Maybe we should do that worldwide in 95 and make us some more money before the special editions supplant the versions that are out there. So yes, 1995 is best known as the year of the THX Remastered Editions, which again did not start in 1995, but are best known as the releases for 1995. The Definitive Collection did kick that off. So we'll kick this off with the United States, starting with a full-screen VHS boxed set of all three films in their THX Remastered Edition form. These are known as the Faces set here, with Vader, a Stormtrooper, and Yoda. Also had some nice little marketing tidbits and whatnot inside there. These did not have the bonus features from the Definitive Collection. Those were gone. But in addition to the films themselves, there was a three-part, one part per VHS cassette, a three-part interview between George Lucas and Leonard Maltin, which was pretty neat. And because I don't usually get a chance to show these, I will show the ones that I have for this particular release. In the era before DVD and then Blu-ray and so on, where you had a lot of subtitle options and different audio options on different releases, instead, if you wanted something in a different language or you had some type of perhaps a vision impairment, you really had options only to get special versions of releases rather than the regular releases that just have different options to click through. So if you wanted, for instance, this trilogy set in Spanish, you could get a Spanish subtitled version of it, and if you had low vision, you could get a descriptive video service version of it, typically something that is loaned out or rented. In the US, we also had two different variations of widescreen releases for the THX Remastered Edition. They're both in longer boxes. One of them is a side loader here with more of kind of a linen finish on it, and then with more of a glossy, smooth finish, we had a top loader, which of course, as the name implies, opens basically like a shoebox. But yes, two different widescreen packages, despite the fact that both have identical content. The US also got the THX Remastered Edition on LaserDisc, not in a box set, but individual releases, and now rather than CAV like on the Definitive Collection with all those extras, they're on extended play CLV discs, so 2 discs per film, not time compressed, widescreen, of course, in this case, but no extras from the Definitive Collection, just those Leonard Maltin interviews, just like the VHS releases. So we have A New Hope here, kind of nice folding jackets though, so we have A New Hope, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. Note that all of them note widescreen edition up at the top. And for the US, that was it for the THX Remastered Edition, at least as the films themselves, but there were some bonus items that you could pick up. Like if you went to Toys R Us to order them, you got a little holographic sticker here from AH Prismatic. If you went to Blockbuster, you might have been able to get yourself a little lithograph with the cover art. Meanwhile, the UK went a little crazy, and we'll just look at their VHS releases here, but boy, there's a lot of them. You have a full-screen box set that is literally in a cardboard box. You have another full-screen set that looks similar, but is basically just a thicker cardboard slip cover here, where you can see the individual releases with what was basically the international Alvin artwork here, where you've basically got this artwork instead of the faces. Then there was a limited edition version of what is essentially the same thing inside here, with just a Vader slipcover. It looks a little bit more like what we saw with our covers. And you had a limited edition widescreen set here with the Stormtrooper. I actually love the packaging on these because they do a great job of showing what widescreen even means by including it on the packaging itself. But one of the most elaborate VHS sets ever made up our 5th release for the THX Remastered Edition in the UK. They called it the Definitive Collection. We usually call it by the name that the packaging implies as the Executor set. And yes, it's Executor, not Executor. If you execute, you're an executioner, not an executor. The term is Executor. That is this. One of the most fancy, well-regarded, but PAL VHS sets ever produced for Star Wars here. Designed to look like cargo for the Executor Super Star Destroyer. You would open this thing up. It is a big, thick tin. There is a little Star Wars cover on it. Having to be kind of careful because at this point the plastic is a bit brittle from time. It came with the complete scripts for all 3 films. I just have the paperwork that was on the packaging here as well. It comes with a program of content. It comes with a certificate of authenticity type thing that is numbered for this edition. It comes with matte painting art cards. It comes with art of that cover art from '95 that we just saw. And it comes with all 3 films inside cool special packaging with bonus features that we'll take a look at in just a second. They are widescreen here. So we have A New Hope with blue, Empire with red, Jedi with green, and we have From Star Wars to Jedi, The Making of a Saga with all 3 colors on it. But that's not all. On the A New Hope cassette, we have some bonus features here. You have, and obviously this means they're not SP, they're different speeds. With A New Hope, you have the Making of Star Wars included, that's special. The original theatrical trailer, the Star Wars 30-second US TV spot, the theatrical trailer from the 1978 re-release, the 1978 re-release / Academy Award theatrical trailer, the theatrical trailer from the 1981 re-release and the 1982 re-release, War Stories, an interview with George Lucas, Star Wars Gallery narrated by Ralph McQuarrie, and a tour of the Lucasfilm archives conducted by archivist Don Bice and R2-D2. Some of these do cross over with what we saw on the Definitive Collection Laserdisc set. We then have on the Empire VHS, we also have SPFX The Empire Strikes Back, the theatrical teaser trailer 2 from 79, the scope version of the teaser trailer from 79, the theatrical trailer from 79, the actual trailer scope version from 79, the trailers for the 1981 and 1982 re-releases, Sound Advice, an interview with Ben Burt, How Walkers Walk, and The Flight Through the Asteroids, a storyboard comparison. Then on the Return of the Jedi VHS, you have Classic Creatures Return of the Jedi, the theatrical teaser / test from 81, the scope version, the theatrical teaser trailer / final version from 81, the theatrical trailer from 82, the ABCs of Jedi Effects, an interview with Dennis Muren, Jedi Videomatics, a moving storyboard narrated by Ken Ralston, and Lapti Nek, the music video from Jabba's Palace. Then from Star Wars to Jedi is just from Star Wars to Jedi. That's a lot of bonus features primarily carried over from the LaserDisc set of the Definitive Collection from 93 from the US. The most bonus features we will ever see on a VHS set. Again, an absolutely amazing set for its time or any time. Because we'll see something else from that region in a moment, I would note that Australia also got that international version as well, as did Mexico. Although I would note with Mexico that while I have VHS copies of the Mexican THX Remastered Edition sitting up there on my shelves, these are not the VHS version. What are these? Beta. Yes, beta was still going in Mexico in 1995. And yes, they are subtitled, not dubbed. Now, I mentioned in the Executor set over in the UK, we had from Star Wars to Jedi, The Making of a Saga, get some new packaging and get included in that set. Well, in the US, it got its last VHS release as well here from Star Wars to Jedi, The Making of a Saga, with little snippets of each of the 3 covers for the original trilogy. And this year also saw The Making of Star Wars, without the as told by, etc., on its title this time around. The Making of Star Wars got another re-release here in 1995, but only as a mail-away in the United States. This is that item here, kind of that cool idea of doing the faces, but doing it almost more like a draft artwork for Vader here. And in order to get that, you needed to do a mail-away from Serial. In this case, we have Corn Pops. Exclusive offer for The Making of Star Wars video, free with 2 proofs of purchase, yes. Corn Pops would be your source for The Making of Star Wars, in a weird version that replaces the narration by William Conrad that had been on all previous and future releases with trailer voice Don LaFontaine. I mentioned Australia a moment ago. They also got a reissue of The Making of Star Wars here with what I love as a name up here at the top. It is the Strictly Limited Edition. Not a limited edition, but a Strictly Limited Edition VHS. Speaking of behind-the-scenes stuff, in Japan, we got a LaserDisc set of the 3 main behind-the-scenes specials of the time, so not from Star Wars to Jedi, The Making of a Saga, but The Making of Star Wars, SPFX, The Empire Strikes Back, and Classic Creatures Return of the Jedi on LaserDisc as sort of a matching set here. So we have the first, second, and third of those. Japan also received 2 new, rather large LaserDisc boxed sets in 1995. The first was a new version of the Definitive Collection, very different than the previous ones that we saw from the US or even from Japan. This one opens like a shoebox, and you got to be very careful because the obi can come off of it. It's just barely held on there. Inside, aside from the films, you also had a special bonus 2-disc set with all 3 of those making of specials that were also released individually this year, here as part of the Definitive Collection, but no copy of George Lucas' The Creative Impulse this time. The second box set for Japan was very much sort of their version of a LaserDisc box set for the THX Remastered Edition, so none of the Definitive Collection bonus features, but does have the Leonard Maltin interviews and whatnot. Packaging on the disc jackets very similar to what we saw in other international markets like the UK and Australia and Mexico. That is the Star Wars Collector's set here, with the obi still on it. This also opens like a shoebox with a very carefully placed obi on there. Each film not time compressed, on 2 extended play discs, not CAV standard play this time. And as a bonus, a LaserDisc copy of From Star Wars to Jedi, The Making of a Saga, with the artwork that we saw back in 1992 in the US. So again, big picture context. 1995 is a huge year for Star Wars home video, primarily because of the THX Remastered Edition. It did not start in 95, it started in 93 with the Definitive Collection LaserDiscs, was used for that experiment on VHS in the UK in 94, but then went international as a THX Remastered Edition in 95. It will also be the basis of the so-called unaltered editions on DVD in 2006 and 2008, which is a major misnomer. Why? Because this is at least the second version, not counting time compression and whatnot on LaserDiscs and such. This is the second version of Empire and Jedi on home video. It is the third version of A New Hope on home video, not counting any theatrical changes that may have been made to any of the films. These are not unaltered. They are THX Remastered of sort of early versions. That is why, again, when people talk about original unaltered versus pre-special edition, those are two different things. These are the last pre-special edition versions of the films. Are they the original versions? No, they are not. And because those DVDs in 2006 that are reissued in 2008 will be using these as the master, except for the opening of A New Hope, that also means those unaltered theatrical versions in 2006 and 2008 are not what they claim to be. But more about that when we get to 2006. But we do still have about a decade before we can get to that point. So join us next time for a much less eventful year, 1996.